Welcome to another edition of the Sports Roundup. I am your host, Brandon Glogau, and today we are joined by Milwaukee Brewers right-handed pitcher Justin Topa. Justin, original draft pick by the Cincinnati Reds in 2012. He went back to LIU for his redshirt junior year, and he signed with the Pittsburgh Pirates back in 2013. Bounced around, went to the Texas Rangers, and now he's with the big leagues with the Milwaukee Brewers. Justin, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I mentioned in the introduction that you went back to LIU for your redshirt junior year. A lot of decision has to go into that. You could risk injury, possibly have a down year in terms of stats. What led to you making that final decision, and how tough was that for you?
Yeah, it was a definitely a tough decision because you grew up hoping for the opportunity to go play professionally, and I had that opportunity by getting drafted by the Reds in 2012. I was kind of in a unique situation because I was actually hurt at the time. I was rehabbing from Tommy John surgery that year. So I actually didn't even pitch in 2012 in the college season. So it was kind of a weird situation. One, getting drafted, without pitching, and two, having the option to, finish my rehab at LIU and go back to school or sign and finish my rehab with the Reds. It was, obviously, like you said, it was a tough decision, but there's a lot of factors involved. At the time at LIU, we were, it was kind of the up and up where we, had strung a couple good years there. My freshman year, my sophomore year, we got to the conference tournament for the first time in a long time, and for me not to be able to pitch in that was kind of tough for me, just being hurt and everything. So that was kind of one of my main factors was being able to be healthy and have that opportunity to pitch in the conference tournament for LIU. And I knew we had a great team coming back the next year, a team that, I knew that we could get back to that tournament and make an impact. And so there was definitely some factors, both, from that standpoint of, where I was health-wise and where I was, having that opportunity to start my professional career. So I think just in the end, it was kind of a collective decision by the family and close friends that, this is probably the best situation going into things and go back to LIU and see what happens the next year.
So now next season, you go back for the draft and you're drafted by the Pirates. What's it like in the minor league clubhouse? You have a bunch of guys in there that have two of the same goals. You want to win the championship, and you're all, I guess you could say, competing against each other because you all have one goal also personally to get to the big leagues. What's the atmosphere like in the clubhouse? Is there like tension, or do you just all have the same goal about winning a championship?
Yeah, I think it's pretty. It's definitely a unique situation that you're thrown into, right? Like you said, you have kind of two goals. You have the long-term goal of getting to the big leagues and making an impact there, and obviously the short term, that season, just playing well as a team and trying to win a championship. In professional baseball, there's in professional sports, it's a lot of player development stuff, especially at that level right after the draft. So everybody kind of came into it in their own ways. But I think at the end of the day, like you said, is being there and working as a team to achieve an ultimate goal of winning a championship that year. That's kind of the main thing in the clubhouse in the day-to-day workday. It's a unique situation for the fact that there's guys that are drafted in different levels, right? That get your first rounders all the way down to, at the time there was 40 rounds in the draft when I was drafted. So you have that unique disparity of where you've been selected or where you have been prior to that, whether it be high school or college. But you walk in there and it's just kind of your normal team environment. You just get to know everybody for the first time. You get comfortable in the situation and get used to the day in and day out scheduling of professional baseball. So I think more than anything, it's just you're just with the boys again and trying to go out and play good baseball.
You go on. How many years did you play with the Pirates before signing a contract with the Rangers, Texas Rangers, and what led you to do that?
Yeah, so I was drafted by the Pirates, like you said, in 2013. I was actually released in spring training of 2017. And then went and played independent league baseball in New York. At the time, it was for the Rockland Boulders in the Can-Am League. They're no longer part of that. That league is no longer existent. But the team is still there. And so in 2017, I was there. And then to start the 2018 season, I started out in Rockland as well, and then signed halfway through with the Rangers. Yeah, so basically that came up. It was kind of out of the blue. When you're in indie ball, it's, I guess you could say, the lowest lowest spot in professional baseball. You're not affiliated with a professional organization. You're basically just a free agent continuing to play, hoping for the opportunity to get in affiliated ball. And I had a good year in 2017 following my second elbow surgery, and I had some workouts with teams, and I thought that maybe I could get picked up that off season after 2017. Unfortunately, that didn't happen until halfway through 2018. But yeah, so I signed with the Rangers. They basically reached out to the team in Rockland. They needed some pitching at the time, and I was able to get picked up by them and signed a contract and played 2018, the rest of the 2018 season with them in the high A and double A in Frisco.
So now you go to the Milwaukee Brewers then in 2019. And it didn't take much longer for you to get to where you are now. You spent about a year and a half in the minor leagues in Milwaukee. Well, 2020, actually, there was a cancellation in the minor league season. So how did that affect you, not being able to pitch in a real game?
Yeah, so it was very interesting, a weird year, that's for sure. We started the year, I guess, normal in a sense. Showed up to spring training. I was part of a group that was throwing in some big league spring training games, so I was here kind of early in Arizona, pitching in those big league games. And at the time we were just getting ready for your normal minor league season, and then obviously the pandemic happened, so we all were sent home. And yeah, so it was a weird situation, being at home during those months that you're usually on the road, traveling, playing baseball every day. It was definitely different and something to get used to. So, obviously the facilities that I was working out in the off season, were closed due to the pandemic. So you kind of have to figure out your own home workouts and stuff like that. Thankfully, we were able to grab some weights and stuff to kind of make a little homemade gym at home. I ended up building a mound in my backyard. So wow. I was able to find a local catcher, a high school catcher, to come by a couple times a week and stay in shape and play catch and throw bullpens and stuff like that. And as things progressed throughout the summer, there's talks about spring training starting up again, just with the pandemic and have all the restrictions COVID wise. So there's those talks, and then spring training, I guess what they call 2.0, happened in June, middle of summer there. And initially I wasn't part of that group that was being sent there, so it's kind of like a waiting game at that point. I didn't know if what the plan was, if the minor league season was going to actually happen. I knew that there might have been an opportunity to be added to that taxi squad group, what they called it, or the alternate site that we had in just north of Milwaukee and Appleton. So I was kind of just waiting on a phone call more than anything. I was actually a pending minor league free agent again after that season. So it was kind of up in the air what the plan was for the rest of that year, and then obviously further into 2021. But yeah, so I ended up getting the phone call end of July that I was going to be added to the alternate site group that they had up there. And I ended up, driving out to Appleton, Wisconsin, and then a month later I was called up to make my debut at the beginning of September. So it was a pretty surreal experience, and definitely not how I thought the whole process was going to go, thinking about getting to the big leagues, but it's unique, and it definitely wouldn't change anything.
When you got the phone call, what was the moment like with your family? Because you spent so much time in the minors, you had your ups and downs, unfortunately being released, having to play independent ball. So you really worked really hard to get to where you want to be, and it took a lot of effort. And so what was that overall moment like for you?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like you said, there's been a lot of ups and downs injury wise, and getting released, playing indie ball. It's been a long time coming and trying to navigate that. And I was actually at the hotel at the alternate site and had gotten a phone call from one of our pitching coordinators, and he basically was saying, you got to get on the road. You gotta be at Miller Park or American Family Field for batting practice and stuff like that. You're getting called up. So it was pretty cool to be able to call my dad and my sister and, my fiance to tell them that news. And it was definitely a surreal experience. You dream of that day you're going to get the call to the big leagues, and for it to happen is it's unbelievable.
Now it's a little different for a relief pitcher rather than if you're a starting pitcher or a position player, because you don't really know when you're actually going to get your first actual appearance. How many games did it take for you to finally get your first appearance, and were your friends and family able to be at that particular game?
Yeah, so I got called up August 31st, and ironically, the first day that I got called up, we were playing the Pirates, so it was just pretty cool. I still have a bunch of friends that are over there in the big leagues, so it was cool to see them, on my first day in the big leagues. Unfortunately, I didn't get to pitch that day, but I ended up pitching the next day, September 1st, against the Tigers. Was able to throw 2 innings, and unfortunately, due to the pandemic and everything, no fans or family were able to be there. But obviously, they were watching from afar. I think that everybody wishes that they had the opportunity to be there, and obviously, I wish that they were there too for that. But it was a cool experience. Like pitching against the Tigers, there's a couple guys that I know that were over there, and you're facing guys like Miguel Cabrera and guys that have played in the big leagues for a long time. You've watched them from afar. It's a pretty cool debut, that's for sure.
You talk about how you pitched in the Northeast Conference tournament. You're able to be part of the postseason roster within a month of being called up. Talk about that experience. Obviously it was a little different with no fans in the stands, but just the overall experience being part of the roster for the postseason.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was pretty cool to have that opportunity. You dream of getting to the big leagues, and then there's obviously a lot of different goals that come with that, and to pitch in the postseason. I've always loved the game of baseball, the competing aspect of it, and the ultimate goal is to win a championship. So to have that opportunity to be part of that playoff roster and that playoff push is incredible. Pitching our first or our series there, the wild card series, was in Dodger Stadium, so another stadium that has been around for years, has the history behind it, and to walk through those walkways in the clubhouse was pretty cool to think about. Who's been in this spot before. Dodger Stadium, even with no fans, it got pretty loud in there. Pitching there in the first game of the wild card game, it was an unbelievable experience. Like you said, wish that fans could be there, but we made the most of it, and unfortunately, we ended up losing that series. But just to have that experience, especially in my first year, like you said, a month and a half into me getting called up, just to have that right off the bat of pitching in meaningful games. It's an unbelievable base to build off of going into the next few years here in my career.
So now you're in the show. I'm just gonna go back a little bit. Talk about, you just mentioned your fiance. You just recently got engaged. How difficult is it for you and some of your close friends and family, where you're constantly on the road traveling from different cities and states? And how has it been for you and the rest of your family, just how they stuck with it all these years before getting to the ultimate goal and then making it to the show?
Yeah, it's certainly been a long process. It's definitely tough being away for extended periods of time. I feel like I definitely don't get home as much as what I would like to. Obviously, thankfully, technology with Zoom and everything, and keeping up with everybody through social media and stuff like that is huge. And taking the time when we are able to be home and be around family, certainly cherish those moments for sure. It's good that my family's been able to come out as much as possible. Anytime that they have the opportunity, they're making the road trip to wherever to come see games and stuff like that, or just come visit. So thankfully I've had a great support system this entire time. And like you said, it's been a up and down road. Minor leagues for X amount of years and all that, a lot of injuries and stuff like that. But to have that support system and that base that I'm gonna be all right in any sense, whatever is thrown my way. It's huge just to be able to have those people there to just call up, talk briefly or whatever. as much as it sucks that we can't be together at all times, it's good to have that opportunity.
Unfortunately, 2021 was an injury-based year for you. Spent a lot of time rehabbing up and down to the alternate site, 60-day ILs. Talk about what a major league player goes through when you're rehabbing and before you get cleared to go to the show, because, you know, when you watch SportsCenter, ESPN, you know, you just hear he's on the IL, and, you know, what goes through the actual process before getting called back up.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different for everybody depending on the injury and the severity and everything. This year at the end of spring training, I ended up having a little flexor strain, or I guess you consider a partial tear in my elbow. And so we ultimately decided, you know, surgery wasn't needed at the time, all that stuff. So it was kind of just normal rehab. So I stayed out here, you know, traveled to Milwaukee for a couple of weeks, and then came out here to Arizona at the spring training complex to begin the rehab process. And yeah, basically it's just kind of you rehab every day, and there's a lot of downtime in the afternoons. You know, we get there pretty early and do our stuff in the training room. Like I said, it's different obviously for every injury, but for me, it was a lot of, you know, strength-based stuff and building up, you know, trying to get as much blood flow to that area to start the healing process and get the repair process going. And then, you know, a lot of stuff in the weight room, doing your general workouts and stuff like that. And then as things progress, you know, you start to get into throwing programs, and you're building up in that aspect of the throwing program. Then you're starting to pitch off the mound for a little bit, you know, doing some bullpens and stuff like that. And then eventually, as things progress, you get into games and start to build up your workload that way. Whether it be, you know, for myself as a reliever, 1, maybe 2 innings at a time. As a starter, you know, you get built up inning wise and pitch count wise. And then, you know, once you're kind of done out of that rehab phase in the spring training complex here in Arizona for us, I had gotten sent to AA to do a rehab assignment there. So I was there for a couple of weeks, made 4 or 5 appearances there, and then sent to AAA to continue the rehab assignment. And then, you know, you get at some point, you know, your injury timeline, you only get a certain amount of days from the start of your rehab process or your rehab assignment to be activated, or, you know, whatever roster move needs to be made at that point. So you kind of just progress depending on where you're at, you know, building up wise and innings wise. You kind of do that process once you're kind of cleared to throw and everything. Unfortunately for me, like you said, I spent most of the year on the 60-day, and then, you know, got back into rehab assignment games, got called back up, sent down, called back up, and then got hurt again. Essentially, it's the same injury that, you know, I had earlier in the year. Unfortunately, it never healed properly, or never healed to the full extent, and now required surgery. So now the sights are set on 2022, and hopefully, you know, we're at kind of a point here where I when I had surgery, kind of actually lined up pretty well to kind of be ready to go near the beginning of next year, which is kind of good. You know, hopefully not much more lost time in a sense, but yeah. So now I'm just out here in Phoenix, in Arizona, just going to the complex and doing that rehab process. Like I said, it's a little different for everybody, but for me, it's, you know, get in there, training room stuff, weight room stuff, and then kind of, you know, do whatever needs to be done that day from strength and conditioning standpoint, to build off that.
Going back into a gameplay situation, what kind of conversations go on in the bullpen? Whether it's going to be a bullpen game, you know, maybe a starter gets knocked out early, or if your starter's pitching a gem, he may have a chance to go 7-8 innings, maybe the whole game. Are you guys talking about the game? Are you guys talking about, you know, looking ahead into the game, or are you guys just trying to watch a game and, you know, see what's going on and stuff like that?
Kind of a mix of everything, right? Everybody kind of knows their role at that point. You know, we got in the back end of the bullpen, we got 2 of the best guys in baseball with Devin Williams and Josh Hader. And so you kind of, you can kind of almost guarantee slot those guys in the 8th and 9th inning. But, you know, just in general, everybody kind of knows their role in a sense of where they might pitch at certain points in the game. You know, some guys are longer relief guys compared to others. But I think at any point we know that we can be called upon. You know, then our coaching staff is coaching staff and scouting department has done a great job of kind of instilling the fact that, like, you guys just have to get outs, at any point in the game. It could be the second inning, it could be the 10th inning. Like, we go into extras that anybody can throw. So everybody down there in the bullpen, we all have the mindset of, like, at any point we can be thrown in this game. So we kind of navigate, see where we are in the lineup, see who, might be coming up. Matchups come definitely are into that decision. Scouting reports and analytics are so big in the game now that we have all the information right there available to us on iPads and binders and scouting report sheets and stuff like that. So we kind of have an idea of where some guys might slot in that day depending on who's available and stuff. There's a lot of factors, obviously, but I would say just general consensus. When we're down there in the game, it's everybody's ready to go at any point, and we're kind of just talking about the game, talking about what we see and stuff like that to be able to be ready to go when called upon.
So now you're obviously working on trying to get healthy. What are your personal goals for the 2022 season?
Yeah, I mean, definitely to be healthy, to say the least. But yeah, I think for me, it's just to be able to get healthy, and because I know that when I'm healthy, anything can happen, and I'm in a good spot there. So it's, for me, one for sure is health, and then two, to get back and pitch meaningful games and be ready to go at any point, like we were talking about earlier. To be called upon and to have that opportunity to do that day in and day out is massive. And we got a very good team in Milwaukee. We got a lot of cornerstone guys who we're going to be able to contend for the next handful of years here. We've been to the playoffs a handful of times in the past 5 years, and we haven't really got over that hump. But I think that we have the core group that can do that, and just to be able to be part of that and have an impact and hopefully get to the World Series. That's the ultimate goal every year.
Well, Justin, I wish you a speedy recovery. I hope your goals come true, and that you get to play meaningful games and pitch in meaningful games for you personally. I don't think we've ever had a relief pitcher appear on the cover of MLB The Show. Maybe you could be the first. And
yeah, that'd be nice.
I wish you the best going forward in the rest of your young major league career.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
This is Justin Topa, right-handed pitcher in the Milwaukee Brewers organization. This has been another episode of the Sports Roundup. I am your host, Brandon Glogau, and we'll see you next time.